Hello and welcome to the all-new NRLW Weekly podcast with me, Marlee Silva, and NRLW legend Ruan Sims, thanks to Light and Easy, fueling women in sport. On the show today, in Ru's Wrap, we talk about the Eels' very first win for the season and did we witness the greatest individual performance ever in the NRLW? History is to be made in the NRL this weekend with the referees, and Titans captain Georgia Hale joins the show. Well, Ru, it is a pleasure, as always, to be sitting here with you after another incredible round of NRLW.
Thanks, Marlee. It is. And, I'm really looking forward to talking to Georgia Hale today. She's a wonderful advocate for the game and she's an incredible speaker, so I think she'll have some great insights into the Titans for us.
I'm sure she will. Can I just say, I am hating how quickly this NRLW season is getting away from us.
I know. What is it? We're up to round 7 already?
How on earth?
It's just gone so quickly,
and
hasn't
it's probably because we keep seeing all this incredible footy and it is quite literally flying past us. Yeah. We're going to get straight into Ru's Wrap.
Yes.
It's always a tough one for you to point out the best player, the best moment for the teams on the field.
Yeah.
But I think the best player of the week is pretty obvious.
Well, yeah, normally I'm scrambling and saying, I've got 5 and you make me cut it down to 1 and so I come up with 3 instead. But this week I think it was very, very clear the absolute most dominant performance I've seen from an individual in a very long time, potentially ever, in NRLW was Teagan Berry. And I think both her coach and Racine McGregor spoke about this. She single-handedly kept the Dragons in that game. And she was absolutely fantastic. 4 tries and phenomenal tries too, not just finishing or anything. Like, she came up with some incredible individual efforts. She ran for over 256 metres. She had 12 tackle busts as well. It was just the brilliance of Lauren Brown of the Titans, that field goal that actually stopped it from being, a fairy tale finish for the Dragons. But she was absolutely incredible for them. And when you consider this is her first year at fullback.
That is absurd to me.
She's always been played at wing.
Yeah.
She's played some junior stuff at fullback and things like that, but obviously we have incredible fullbacks in our game. So she's been played as a winger previously, and to see her absolutely stamp her authority on that number 1 jersey for the Red V. Yeah. It's phenomenal. Absolutely a brilliant individual performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she is going to be a superstar for many, many years to come. And I think even Joey might have said that he wanted to sign it for 20 years. And he said, actually, forget it. Let's make it 30. Yeah. Make it 30 years. So, no, she was fantastic.
She was unbelievable.
So I didn't even come up with 2 others because that is the one that really stuck out in my mind.
100%. I spoke to her briefly after the game and I actually said to her, she was walking towards me, "Are you sweet?" And she laughed and she was like, "Yeah, it was all right." She was not happy with the fact that I ended up losing. She's very passionate, very competitive. And I think she should, I think further down the track in her career, maybe she'll look back and go, okay, maybe the 4 tries was more than all right.
Yeah. No, but it's always so difficult as well when you lose and you put everything into it. You feel very flat and you just don't know exactly what's happened. And it's so difficult, but she was incredible.
Oh, yes. I loved watching that. Now, was there a top game or a top moment more broadly?
I think the top moment, other than Teagan's performance, the top moment was obviously seeing the Eels get their first victory. I mean, they were grand finalists last year and they had massive changes through their roster. And then to see them come out and break that losing streak was fantastic. Rachel Pearson had her fingerprints all over it. She was moving the ball well. She was organising them. Her kicking game was really good. So I think it was good to see them get that victory up and just also to see how much it meant to the players as well. That was very heartening. So, the Eels get my top moment for the week.
I loved seeing that too. You could see the relief on their shoulders, or come off their shoulders rather. I think Cassie Tohu Hiku was also very good in that game.
She was very, very good. And you know what is more exciting about that? So obviously Teagan Berry, Cassie Tohu Hiku, very young players. We had both of those girls in our Sky Blues system this year. So to now see them go out and become leaders in their clubs and lead from the front, and the confidence that they're playing with is well beyond their years. And, they deserve to be getting the accolades that they're getting because they are doing incredible things for such young players.
Absolutely. Also, just a interesting fact that I noted was the season last year, Parramatta, they ended up in the grand final, but they won their first game in the 5th round. So they got their first game in the 6th round. And it's, like you said, those changes and things just clicking finally for them.
Yeah.
So do you feel a bit more confident for their back end of the season?
Yeah, I do. And they will as well. And it's probably more important that they feel confident about their back end of the season. So when you are losing, and you've sort of felt like they were building towards a win as well. And when you are losing, it can be really easy to get stuck in the mud and get stuck in that thought process of we're losing, we have to change everything, or we're losing, when that panic sort of starts to set in. But it's not about that. It's just about tightening up little areas. You continue doing the same thing, but everybody has to do the same thing. And I think this win will give them the confidence to stay with the plan and to continue working with it. So,
for sure.
they're up against it. This weekend.
They
are up against it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for them, but they will have a lot more confidence after having that victory.
Which is always good to see. Now, we are a show that likes to talk about the history-making moments in the women's game. This is a story that's actually in the NRL men's game, but it's one that we think is pretty significant. So Belinda Sharpe and Casey Badger, who are names that we have seen around NRL for quite a few years now as the two most prominent female referees, I thought that they'd already ticked off all the history-making moments they could, all the firsts. But this weekend, they will celebrate a slice of history, becoming the first female referees under the single referee system.
Yeah, so that's where most people probably think the same thing. They're like, hang on, they've already officiated in the middle. But that was when we had 2 refs. So now we're back to that single referee system. And this is the first time a female referee will have the middle, and it's going to happen twice this round. So Belinda and Casey will both get a crack in the middle in an NRL game. And I think that's fantastic. I think, Belinda will ref Manly v Tigers on Friday, and Casey will do the Titans and Bulldogs on Sunday. So I think it's fantastic. And we've seen, obviously Casey does a lot of the bunker stuff as well. So she's very quick with her decisions and she sees things clearly, and her communication is fantastic. And we've seen a lot of Belinda as well. I think especially at Origin level, we see a lot of her with the women's game at Origin level, and she's great there. Again, her communication is very clear, and I think as a player, that's just what you want. You want consistent and clear direction from the referee, and you know what the referee is going to pull up or let go or give you some leniency on. And I think both of those refs do that very well. So I'm really excited to see them do this. I think it's a wonderful moment for them both.
Yeah,
they deserve it.
Yeah, 100% they deserve it. And that's the thing. It's not this tokenistic thing that they're being given this opportunity to make that history moment. It is because they're very good at what they do.
Well, they dedicate their lives to it. They 100%. Dedicate every possible minute of every day to becoming the best referees they can. I've seen what these referees do with their training sessions, and it's intense. So it's not a gift. No. It is a reward for work that they've done well. And I can't wait to see them in the middle this weekend. It'll be great.
Actually, during Women in League round, I went out to Redfern Oval for a junior pathways program that Belinda had put together with a whole bunch of young aspiring NRL refs who are girls, and they ran us through some of the testing that they do. It is so hard.
It's intense.
I thought I knew the rules of rugby league, and under fatigue, it's so hard to know what the right decision was and be watching the moment. But it was really cool to see that next generation of girls in the same way. The ones who are in the stands watching the NRLW players out on the field, watching women like Casey and Belinda and thinking, that's a way for me to be a part of the NRL or just the general rugby league space if that's something I want to build a career in. And so another moment like this does well to inspire and also normalise. And like we've been speaking about so much, it does have a great impact. So I think this is a really nice moment.
I think so too. And it is going to have huge impact on the game, and in a very positive way.
Yes. You are listening to the all-new NRLW Weekly podcast with Marlee, Silva and Ruan Sims, thanks to Light and Easy, fueling women in sport. And we'll be right back after this break.
Light and Easy have been named Best Healthy Meal Delivery Service again, but you won't find us stopping to celebrate. We're busy making it easy for Aussies to achieve their well-being goals, and the results speak for themselves. Light and Easy, just good food and great results.
And this week on NRLW Weekly, we are joined by the Gold Coast Titans captain, Georgia Hale. Georgia, thank you so much for making the time to come on the show. We have been loving watching the Titans this season. How are you feeling?
Hi, Ru and Marlee. Thank you for having me. Feeling really good. We're in a competitive position this season and we're enjoying all of our footy so far.
Well, you can definitely see that, Georgia. And, obviously a disappointing last season, but you've come out of the block so hard. And I remember speaking to Jamie Chapman, asked her this question, what makes you so resilient? And I love the fact that this junkyard dog tag that you've given yourselves. How did that come about? And, what do you think is so different between last season and this season?
Yeah, I think we've been really fortunate to have an extensive pre-season. You don't usually hear many players saying that at all, but we've definitely enjoyed our time on the field and especially our time off the field where we've got to work on our trademarks, what kind of team we want to be about, some of our traits and things. So that's been just as enjoyable. We've had some external support come in, and Junkyard Dogs was kind of just a bit of a tagline that was thrown around at training, and it stuck. And I guess when you think of a junkyard dog, you think of like the grit and the mongrel, and some of those traits just go perfectly in the world of rugby league. So yes, we like to line ourselves to Junkyard Dogs, and I think in some of the games we've had this season, it's been some testing times that we've shown a lot of resilience. We've rolled up our sleeves, and I think that just comes from being a junkyard dog.
And I think when I think about that as well, you get this picture in mind like a dog that just grabs on and never lets go. And that's what I feel like you guys have done with this season. You've just started hard, started fast. Didn't matter who you were against. And in particular, that game against the Broncos comes to mind where they got out quickly, but you guys just got your teeth in there and then you just hung on and hung on and hung on and worked your way to the finish you wanted.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess like some moments within the season, we've put ourselves under immense amount of pressure, which we haven't enjoyed, but I guess it just showed really the grit of the group to be able to kind of come back and, like you said, hook your teeth in. And I guess the fight's not over really till the last whistle's gone. So we've definitely shown that in our performances so far.
With your game against Cronulla at Shark Park, I interviewed your coach, Karen Murphy, at the end. You won in those dying seconds. And she said to me just before we crossed, who would want to be a coach? She was saying that she nearly had a heart attack, and right into the end, you got that win. You've had a few tight wins like that. What's Murph had to say about those and the way that you've shown that resilience and holding on?
Yeah, poor Murph. I think we look up to the coach's box and we expect the glass to be shattered or the water to be all over the windows, because we've put her in some positions which I'm sure is not very comfortable. She's probably kept guessing up there, but yeah, I think it's like Murph and a leader herself. She's obviously walked the talk and paved the way, and she hasn't been fortunate to work in this NRLW space as a player, but I'm sure in her time she of course would have. And everything that she's passed on, her learnings, her experiences and everything is true to a junkyard dog trait. So I think as a player, we're just really enjoying being under her. This is now our second season, and she's had the opportunity to really put together a roster that she wants to work with, a competitive one of high caliber. And she has alongside her Aaron Booth and Maddie Geyer, who in one end, Maddie Geyer being an ex-player and has had a little bit of time away from the game, and then you've got Aaron Booth, who's completely fresh out of it. So really good perspectives to have, great opportunities to learn from all the wisdom we have around us.
Yeah, wonderful. We also saw you do a hot minute over in the UK for the Women's Super League. You got a couple of games under your belt there before you came back, and we've seen a few of those girls playing over in England come across the NRLW this season. What have you seen from that competition? At the World Cup last year, we saw some great international talent, and I think that's a really positive thing for the women's game globally. But having those kind of expats come here now, is that something that excites you for the growth of the game?
Yeah, most definitely. I think the similarity lies in New Zealand. We're in the same position at the moment without having a team coming straight out of home. It gives girls the opportunity to relocate and be a part of such a competitive competition. And it just kind of means the same for the girls living on the other side of the world. Being over there was a really enjoyable time. I got to obviously spend a bit more time with Georgia Roach and Fran, who are also under the Leeds umbrella. The competition's actually good. It's just it lacks a little bit of depth, just making sure that every game and every product is one that I guess you're happy with. And I think one thing that we could take away is if the NRLW and the Super League competition complemented each other a little bit better, just like our Harvey Normans and our BMD do. If we front load the year with Super League and maybe backload it with Challenge Cup, then it will allow the opportunity for girls on that side of the world to come over and play some NRLW.
Were there any other players that you either played against or saw over there that you think would be able or to make that transition to NRLW quickly?
Yes, some names that spring to mind would be Amy Hardcastle and Caitlin Beavers, who are quite well-known names over on that side of the world, and I guess seeing glimpses of them at World Cup and things like those girls are definitely sit in the top tier of the English players. Both lovely lasses, as they'd say, and produce some class on the field. Just they're so loyal to Leeds, which I definitely admire, and also growing the English pathway. But I would love to see them both have an opportunity in the NRLW space.
Well, speaking of quality as well, I just want to go back to your Gold Coast Titans team. Lauren Brown, with the field goal expertise that she has, I also really like the way you guys go about your setup for the field goals. And, you know, some of our listeners might not understand what goes into setting up for that. Can you talk us through that? Because you've had a few shots this year.
Yeah, we're sorry, Loz, for putting you in that position, but she's rather good at it. So that's, I guess, to our credit. But she's obviously come from the rugby 7 space, so like drop kicking, that's definitely a tool that she's added to her kit. And in those moments, I guess leading in, like we're sitting drawn at the piece, and there's like a little bit of pressure that comes with that. We're obviously looking for a point, and for us middles, our job's simple. We're just kind of working towards a point where she has best range from. We probably gave her a harder task on the weekend just gone. She was probably sitting about 30 metres out, but thankfully she does have a good boot. But yeah, it's just kind of as any team do, you jump on the back of your processes and kind of just get a call in. We've actually had some opportunities at training to simulate a situation like that, so we're not putting Roz under too much pressure, but pretty much just getting to a point, giving her the best opportunity, go over and then getting in for a team hug.
Now, another player that I think Joey particularly loved on the weekend, I think she's a very impressive young player, is Shante Kirioratu. Her poise for such a young athlete coming into this space, she has been so strong for you guys, considering she only played in the under-19s Origin game earlier this year, to come in and be so present and dominant in that halves pairing. How's she been at training? What have you made of her game?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate actually. In our hub, she's my cell buddy, so she sits next to me, and she's a quiet young girl, but she's got an older head on her shoulders. She's much more mature beyond 30 years, one that's 18 and fresh out of school. She did have the opportunity to come through the system being a development player in previous campaigns, and I think it's just come at a great time for her to have an opportunity. Each round you just see her poise, but her timing and her tempo. Like she just seems to be coming into and she's working on an edge with the likes of Zara Canfield, who loves to punch bowl, and then there's maturity and wisdom of a male. And Goosey, Karina Brown around her, I think just adds and keeps her in a very cool, calm state, and she's just be able to play the game she wants to play and have all the time in the world she needs.
Yeah, isn't that such a great thing to see this next generation of girls coming through who've been through that development now that those structures are there? So exciting.
Actually, sorry to interrupt. I got another quick one.
Yeah.
So the other one who I think is mad and I love, Riley Jorgensen. My goodness.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. You know me too well, Georgia.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because she wears her pink Spanx and her pink headgear, and I think girls still seem to run at her. I don't know why, but I'm very fortunate she's on our team. We usually just give her the job to get out there and be a true dog, and her traits, and those are her best qualities, and she definitely bone rattles girls for us. But again, for someone so young, her footy IQ and her knowledge of the game is beyond her years, so I'm excited to see the kind of future Riley has.
I've definitely heard that in the commentary. Do
love
not
it.
run at the pink headgear.
Yes.
Think
of it like a stoplight. Pink means stop.
Yes, exactly. And looking ahead to this weekend, you guys have the Tigers. Now, last week you had that really dominant start against the Dragons, and they just came back and made it quite tense towards the end. What's the focus coming into this next game?
Yeah, so I think off the back of that performance last week, the focus was on a fast start, which we found ourselves having. But obviously now it's just to kind of piece everything together and make it like a full 70, like job's not done. There was maybe a few moments we clocked off, and for someone like the likes of Teagan Berry, absolute rocket, and she just sniffed like every opportunity we gave her. So we just can't afford to be giving teams that much time, that much space to move, especially coming into the back end when you're in a position where teams are like playing for, or they maybe don't have as much to play for, and the competition really changes. So yeah, looking forward to the Tigers this weekend. I've actually come to work today. I'm a support worker, and one of my boys every Wednesday that I have him, he always wears the full kit of the opposition team. So he's come in his full Tigers jersey, his Tigers hat, and he's got his Tigers swim bag. So
That is dedication.
Makes for an interesting Wednesday.
What about the mind games he's playing on you?
Well, he started something now, so I feel like he has to finish it off.
Yeah,
Fair
absolutely. Now, the Tigers, obviously, we always talk about how strong their middle is. Sala Tonga-Tuki, obviously, unfortunately, out for a week, and Keziap still has that HIA. But I think their outside backs is where a majority of their strength in the Tigers lay. They've got incredible speed and strength out there. So middle defence, especially 3 yardage, is going to be key for you guys on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. They're great at returning the footy, and they've got a lot of flair, and they've got some fast girls, so definitely can't be giving any opportunities and can't be clocking off there in the middle. Just excited to see what they're about and to go up against them. Obviously, they've had some time together in the Harvey Normans, and they've gelled, and it's nice to see them in the competition and competing at such a high level. So I'm looking forward to the match. Lucky for us, we're at home. We can hopefully get a few fans there on Sunday Arvo, but yeah, having watched the Tigers, it's been enjoyable, so looking forward to a close contest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it should be an interesting matchup. It's been great, as you've described, the way that you guys have started so hot this season. The season's quickly getting away from us, so really good luck to you on the weekend and for the rest of the season. Thank you so much for making the time, Georgia.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, you predicted it, Ru. Goodness, it's so nice to listen to how Georgia speaks.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Obviously, I've never played with her, but I've played against her, and I've played against her at when she played Kiwi Ferns as well. And she is just a wonderful ambassador for our game.
Yeah.
She's an excellent spokesperson, and you can tell she's a very genuine and very caring individual, and she has her finger on the pulse with everything. So
a great leader for that club.
She is a wonderful leader for that club, and like I said, I think averages something like ridiculous, like 40 tackles a week.
Just casually.
Please.
That sounds super
Can
easy.
you believe she used to be a half?
Really?
She used to be a half. She played as a half. And then, so she played Kiwi Ferns as a half. Mm-hmm. And then she's moved into that ball-playing lock role. And I might say she has taken that one by the horns. She is incredible. She's
really
a wonderful, wonderful player for the Titans.
Very, very strong player. Now, Ru, we've been putting it out there, a question box on the NRL Online Instagram to have you guys, the listeners, send us the big questions, the big ones that have been, you've been burning to hear the answer to. Now, this first one I've got for you today is from Jess, and Jess writes, "Hey, Marlee and Ru, love the show. Ru, all your brothers played for the Dragons. How come you didn't?"
I think I know the Jess that sent this one in, and he is a massive Red V fan.
Right.
Massive Red V fan. Thanks for the question, Jess. I did have the opportunity to go to the Dragons, and I was tossing up between the Dragons and the Roosters in 2018, and it was very, very tempting because of the family connection, and my sister was potentially going to be play there as well. So, and I had to make the decision based on what was best for me at the time. And when I spoke to the Roosters, obviously I lived in Sydney, I worked in Sydney, and the Roosters is an incredible outfit, as is the Dragons. But I made the decision to go with the Roosters because it resonated with me that would be the right decision for me. But I don't regret that decision because I had a wonderful couple of years there. But the Red V is very special in the Sims household. And obviously I grew up the Steelers was my team.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a tough decision because I had this real heartstring tie to the South Coast and to the Dragons and the Steelers. So, but I made the decision, to go with the tricolours.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible couple of years. So, yeah,
Well,
that was why, Jess.
Before we came into the studio today, you were telling me what your week looks like and how crazy busy you are.
Yeah.
So I think if the people knew what your schedule was like and having just at least that logistically a club that was a little bit closer for you makes a whole lot of sense. Now, the other question we've got today is from Sharma, and Sharma asks, would Ruan consider coaching the Jillaroos?
Oh, that's, if an opportunity arose to be part of it, of course, you know, I would definitely consider it. Do I think that my coaching game is there right now? Not yet, but I'd love to continue to work on my coaching so that I became the best candidate for the role. But yeah, that's with everything though. Like in any kind of coaching role, I would love to continue to work on that, or work on my craft and continue to hone it and become better and learn a lot more. So yeah, I think if that opportunity arose and I felt like I had done enough self-development to fulfill that position, then yes, I would. It wouldn't be anytime soon, I would just say, but it'll take a little while for me to build. But yeah, it would definitely be something I consider.
Oh, that would be very cool to see you end up there. Again, you do a million things. You've got a few coaching things under your belt at the moment, so maybe when you have a bit more time.
Maybe.
Awesome. Well, now it's time for us to preview round 7 of the NRLW, which you can catch every single one of the games in this round live and free on 9 and 9 Now. Get around it. Like I said, this season is absolutely flying by. You don't want to miss a second of these games. And this weekend, Saturday the 2nd of September, round 7 will kick off with a game down in Canberra at GIO Stadium, the Raiders hosting the Knights.
Yeah, this will be a good game, and this will be a really good test for the Raiders as well, because obviously they came off that tough loss last week, travelling up to Brisbane and the heat and travel and all that sort of stuff. So they're heading back home, so they'll have a little bit of time to sort of hit the reset. I know that Darren Borthwick will pull that game apart and look for avenues and places where they can be better. But, I mean, to be fair, the Broncos just went on this incredible roll and it was a juggernaut.
Yeah. I mean, the Raiders were up 8-0 to start.
Yeah,
and
they got off to a really good start. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's what the Broncos can do. So, yeah, there will be things that the Raiders need to fix up to make sure that they get it over the Knights. And the Knights got off to a really good start last week and then started to get chased down. So, again, Ronnie Griffiths, the coach of the Knights, will be looking at that saying, okay, well, we did this section well. Now we must do this and this and this to maintain how we started. So they're going to be the two, I reckon that's going to be the focus for the two camps.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be, pinpointing what they did well and making sure that they can maintain that and continue it for longer periods of time. Down in Canberra as well is a good thing for the Raiders. Yeah. The Knights will be travelling. Looking at it, though, Alpi Nichols is back for the Raiders, which I think is wonderful. She was very good. She is very good for them out the back. She's safe as houses, and defensively she's a really good organiser. So they'll be glad to have her back there. No Jessica Gentle this week. However, I did like what she did for the Raiders last week. She had some good wheels. She was nice and quick. So she's a player to keep watching for the future. I think this one particularly, I think the forwards are going to have to really shut down this forward pack of the Knights. I mean, 1 to 17, pretty intimidating for the Knights. Like that is a really, really good lineup. So, Grace Kemp had her first start last week for the Raiders. She'll be better for that this week because we've only really seen her come off the bench. She's had incredible impact off the bench. Starting is very different. And so she'll be better for that last week. So that forward pack is going to really have to work hard to contain the Knights here. And Taylor Predabon is starting for the Knights as well. She's normally one that they bring off the bench for that big impact. So she's also starting, and Caitlin Johnston will stay in the middle as well. So, and having Hannah Southwell back for them was
Yeah.
was very, very good. She came up with some ripper tackles last week.
Can I say I loved the aggression and passion we saw from Hannah's little sister Jessie?
She's always like that. Yeah.
It seemed, I don't know if it was just the weekend before or maybe for me, just from a sideline perspective, she'd seemed just a little bit quieter in a few games, and just how aggressive and in the Sharks' faces she was. I think that really made an impact with catching them on the back foot a little bit. So I personally loved seeing that.
Yeah, and look, and it helps when your forward pack is rolling. Your halves can get on the front foot.
Yeah.
So that's footy's a pretty easy game when you think about it. You go forward and then you give it to your halves and they create something. So but if your forwards aren't taking that space and creating that opportunity for the halves can't do much. Like they just get the ball on the back foot. It's a dodgy kick off the back, or it's the kick is skewed or whatever. So they set a really good platform for her to be able to bring out more of her natural game last week. So even though this is a home game for the Raiders, I think the Knights are going to come away with the win here.
Okay.
But this is going to be a tight game.
All right.
A very tight game.
Should be a good
Maybe
one.
4 to 6 points in it.
All right, you heard it here first. Second game of the round, we then head up north to Queensland Country Bank Stadium for the first of a double header that's going to be hosted there, and I'll be sweating on the sideline alongside JT for that one. It'll be the Broncos and the Sharks. Now, the Broncos, as you said, had an absolute cracker game last weekend against the Raiders, got rolling, and the Sharks seemed to lose a bit of gas again, like what we saw when they came up against the Roosters, and they just seemed to, I don't know, you have some insider knowledge.
I think the difference last week wasn't that they didn't have the gas. It was that they didn't start well, the Sharks. They didn't start well. The Knights got off to a very quick start. And when you let a team get a head start on you, then you're just constantly chasing. You're constantly chasing. And then that can then affect your decision-making if you're not calm enough. So I think the Sharks this week, they need to start a lot better. But also the Broncos didn't start well last week. But then, when I spoke to Georgia, the game against the Titans, they started brilliantly and then got run down. Yeah. So the key will be for the Sharks, they need to contain the Broncos to start with. They can't let them jump out to that start because it is going to be too difficult to try and run them down. And especially if you'd allow the Broncos to get to a really quick start like that, then it brings Ali Brigginshaw into the game a lot more and Gail Broughton into the game a lot more. So you need to be able to minimise the amount of time that those two players have with the football, because if you give them too much time and space and give them too much respect, they'll just tear you apart.
Simple as that.
It's pretty simple. Yeah. I think we spoke about this on the call. You know that Ali has a big dummy and step, but you still have to stop it. Yeah. It's the same as Jessie Southwell. You know that she's got that big dummy and right foot step, but you still have to stop it. Yeah. Because when things are being done on the front foot and at pace, your decision-making time is significantly reduced. So the key to that is defensive line speed. You've got to get up in their face and reduce the amount of time from when they catch the ball for them to then decide what opportunity or what option they're going to take off the back of it. So I think this week is going to be a really big effort for the Sharks defensively to be able to try and minimise that attacking prowess of the Broncos, because the Broncos were fantastic. Like I said, they were juggernauts. Yeah. Once they got on a roll last week, and they had 2 tries disallowed as well. So they were on track to push that 48-point record that had been set the night before by the Roosters. Yeah. So, that's going to be really, really important for the Sharks. For the Broncos, I think if they can work on the same in reverse, if they can minimise the amount of time Emma Tonegado has with the ball, that's obviously what they're going to try and do, because she is such a strike weapon. But then we saw her move herself around last week and swing a little bit. So, it's going to be a really good game. It's going to be a tough game for the Sharks as well, because they've got to travel. But I have it on good authority that the travel has been fixed for this week to Townsville.
That's good to know.
They're now leaving on earlier, so that they're not going to get caught out.
I'm on their flight, actually, so I can make sure they're all there.
Yeah, thank you. I'll say Marlee's going to take roll call, make sure everyone's there, ready to roll. But then again, I look at this left edge of the Broncos when you've got Julia Robinson, Mela Hufanga, and then Gail Broughton is your half. Just how incredible. And then Romy Teitzel is your second roller. Tough. That is a really great left edge. And then the right edge, you don't have any you've got no breaks either.
No.
That right edge is phenomenal. So, yeah, also another key one, Lena Dutzy is coming off the bench for the Broncos.
She's having a
She
cracker
loves
season.
an offload.
Yeah.
Now, she had a slow start.
Yeah.
She had a slow start to the season, but now she's really found her groove. Like you can see that she's understanding her role coming off the bench because she got used to being a starter, and your role changes when you come off the bench, and she's really made that spot her own. So, yeah, like, the second phase play that she can create will be very, very damaging. So, yeah, it's going to be a great game. I'm going to tip the Sharks.
Okay.
Because they have to win.
Okay.
They have to. So
Desperation.
So they must win. But it is going to be a really, really tough game. I think this one again might only have 4 to 6 points in it.
Love that. Then that third game of the round, also at Queensland Country Bank Stadium, is the Cowboys at home facing up against the Dragons. Both of them looking for vengeance after their losses last week.
Yeah, and both coaches will be looking for a response from their teams. And I think, excuse me, the Cowboys, it was the first time we really saw them a bit rattled the last couple of weeks. So I think that their senior players will really step up here and really control that. We saw Tallulah get taken off.
Yes, very
strategically. So we'll see if that plays out again this week. I'm not sure what the reasoning is there, but obviously, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I believe from my understanding, I had a quick chat to a few of the Cowboys girls after. That wasn't part of the game plan.
Okay.
So that was a decision that was they.
Yeah, well, that's why I was worried that an injury might have happened.
I thought it was.
So I'm glad it's not an injury.
Yes,
if it was just tactical, we'll see the results of that this week.
Yeah.
So that'll we'll see how that pans out. But again, I think Emma Manzelmann is going to be a real key for the Cowboys, especially if her forwards can really get back to that priority that they play. Like they're a very what we call priority one, which is just straight through the middle.
Yeah.
They're very power-focused team. So if they can get back to that, that'll really work in their favour because then Emma can get out off the back of it and she only needs a half sniff to be able to get out. And then from there, Kira Dibb can help with their field position and their management and Tallulah can be a little bit more creative. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see how that one pans out. Also, China Pilata is playing lock this week. She's playing lock this week. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her in the halves. Maybe
I was going to say, like,
she's just going to tick off on all the positions.
Exactly.
Yeah, see what we can do there for her.
Goodness.
But she's obviously an incredibly versatile player, which works in their favour for the Cowboys. But then the Dragons, again, like that was such a dominant performance. I mean, we touched on this in earlier. Teagan Berry was huge. And so now what that then will do is that teams will then be looking for her constantly.
Yes.
They'll be constantly looking for her. So a fullback will either sit behind the ruck, which is the play the ball, and then they'll choose to swing late. She's got that speed to do it. Or they will set up on one side. And you pretty much know that as an identifier or as indicator, that's your indicator. The ball's probably going to go that way.
Yeah.
So then that means the opposite side. So if she's set up on the right with Ray McGregor, that defence is then going to say, okay, well, we've got to... They start looking at her and they ID her. They go, oh, she's out the back. It's going to go this way. And then you can see defensive lines can get a little bit antsy and start to make early decisions as opposed to waiting to see what's going to happen. And that's where I think Tyler Nathan Wong can really come into play on the opposite side. And then vice versa for Ray McGregor. So I think that, when you get such a dominant performance like that from one player in the previous week, the next week the opposition is constantly looking for that player and that draws the attention. So then you look at one hand and then you see what the other hand is doing. So that could work in the Dragons' favour this week. So, yeah, I'm tipping the Dragons in an away game this week.
Yeah, I think that they found something there towards the back end of that game last week, so I think they'll do it.
Yeah.
Then we get to Sunday, and on the Gold Coast, as Georgia spoke about, they've got a home game against the Tigers.
Yes. This is going to be a very tough game for the Tigers. They're missing a player who gives them the bulk of their go forward in Sala Tongatuki. And then off the back of that, Christian Pio is able to work with her offload game, as is Nevada George. And then that's when Ebony Pryor gets brought into the game as well. So Imogen Gobran has big task ahead of her this weekend. Obviously, I also touched on the fact that Keziap's had an HIA last week and she's been named, but we'll see whether that goes ahead or not. I'm not too sure. They've got till an hour before kickoff to make that decision.
Oh, okay.
So, or 24 hours or an hour. So they can make that decision then. But I really do think that their outside backs, so the back five, are so strong for the Tigers. Bo Vete Welsh, Jakaya Whitfield, Rakea Horn, Leanne Tafunga, and Tess Staines, who I think she debuted last week for them. So she's someone who came from league tag.
Yes.
She played she played league tag, and Kylie Hilda and I went down to watch a game in that area. I can't remember what group it was, but we watched that game, and it was Tess Staines' first game of tackle, and she was fantastic. And she'd come from league tag. She hadn't played tackle before. So she's only new to contact, but she's a tough young player. So, she'll find her feet and she'll work her way into it. But those, especially the first four, carries out of trouble. Massive with their centres and wingers. So they create a lot of go forward. And but that being said, I think they're really up against it because this Titans outfit, they do just own that junkyard dog title. They're so just gritty, and they just, like I said to Georgia, I just get this picture of once they just sink their teeth in, they never let go. You just can't shake them. You can't shake them off, and I really love that about this Titans outfit. And they've got class as well, Vania Politi at the back. She is phenomenal. She's absolutely incredible. Jamie Chapman had a good return from HIA last week as well. And Shante Kirioratu, she's such a talented young half. And then Lauren Brown is in the halves with her as well. So when I look at this lineup, they're just so complete. 1 through 17. And then you look at the work rate that Georgia Hale has at lock. She allows a lot of those middles to be a little bit more creative and get a little bit more width because of her ball playing as well. So I think this is going to be a tough one for the Tigers. Backing up, especially after last week, and I think the Titans will get the job done at home.
Yes, I tend to agree with that too. And one of your faves, Jorgensen, is back on the bench.
I know,
as well.
so excited.
Watch
Remember,
out for that pink
Tigers,
headgear.
pink headgear means stop.
And then our final game of the round, the Roosters, who, again, when we spoke about Parramatta a bit earlier in this episode, this is going to be a very tough game for them because it is, front runners, Roosters, who were so dominant last week, up against Parramatta at Gosford.
This is going to be a tough one, and this is considered a home game for the Roosters because the Central Coast is part of their catchment area. And I really think that the Eels can take it to them. They really can. If they play up tempo and they play the way they did through patches in the game last week, they'll be able to really compete. But then this is the thing about the Roosters outfit. I've spoken about this at length throughout the year. They only need a sniff, and then they're back in it immediately. They can handle points being scored on them, and then as soon as you take your foot off the accelerator, they just pounce and they fill the void and they just flood you. It's really, really hard.
It's a bloodbath.
Yeah, it's really hard to shut them down. So if the Eels want to win, they need to stay disciplined throughout the whole 70 minutes, and they can't afford to switch off. They really can't afford to switch off. So, it is going to be tough going for the Eels. But I think the Roosters are going to win this weekend quite well. I think they will, because I just don't know if the Eels have got enough in the tank to maintain it for that period of time. I think they'll do really well for a big portion of the game. But like I said, the Roosters only need a little bit.
And then
they just flood straight through. So,
100%.
I mean, Corbin Baxter had another great game.
Yeah.
Last week she's been so strong, considering she's just come back from having a baby this season, and she's just come straight back to where she left off. Actually, she's probably playing better than before.
She looks like she's loving it.
So, and she's loving her footy. And Taryn Aiken is having a whale of a season. at number 6, and our very own Millie Boyle, who scored
Yeah.
a meat pie last week.
I love
as
watching
well.
her look down. I spoke to her on Sunday, actually. I was like, when you looked, she's like, yeah, I had to make sure
That it was
I
down
could see it
before
was
she
on the
cleaned
line,
it.
and I was looking up to make sure that they could see it was on the line.
Yeah, definitely.
Love it. We
So I
love
think
it.
Roosters will get the job done at home this week.
Oh, well, it's going to be another incredible round of NRLW. Make sure you're watching all 5 of those games live on 9 and 9 now. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you for your wisdom as always, Ru.
Thanks, Marlee.
And we'll catch you next time.
With the finals around the corner, NRL on 9 has you covered.
From match highlights, press conferences, don't forget, Freddie in the 8.
Of course.
NRL on 9 has you covered for everything. One-stop shop.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a moment.